Hello and welcome to our Awaken Conversation tonight. This is Paul Hoyt. Tonight we're going to have an Awaken Conversation with a special guest, Rallie Rallis, who we'll introduce here in just a few minutes. And we'll have an opportunity to talk to him about his journey of business and personal growth. As a reminder, our agenda for tonight's conversation is I really do want to make this interactive. So be thinking about questions and discussion topics that you might have. So when we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation tonight, we may take you off of mute, invite you to share your question or your comment interactively, or if you like, you can type your question into the chat window and we'll ask the question for you. First, we're going to have a brief review of what it means to me to be an awakened CEO. Then I'm going to share some inspirational thoughts with you. Then we're going to introduce Rallie Rallis and talk to him about his journeys. Then we're going to go into question and answer period, and I expect the entire conversation tonight to last between 45 and 60 minutes. This Awakened CEO conversation is a real cornerstone to the Awakened CEO community. And our Awakened CEO community is for everyone who wants to build a strong business and be the best person that they can be. We support each other through each one of the challenges that we all face in growing a business, and we help each other gain wisdom in the process of being a CEO or an entrepreneur. We want to support each other in becoming an awakened leader, to become the very best leaders that we can possibly be. And I think becoming an awakened leader is part of the natural progression of evolution. I think our entire planet is becoming more awakened and more aware. And we're becoming better CEOs and leaders at the same time because we're exposed to so many more ideas and cultures than we ever had a chance to be exposed to before. I think we're experiencing what I call a technology-fueled evolution, because we have literally 10 or 100 times the information available at our fingertips than we ever did 30, 40, 50 years ago. One of my favorite subject matters in psychology was the concept of self-actualization and how people progress through life looking and having different needs in their systems and in their lives. You know, it starts out with taking care of the physiological needs of food and drink and water and safety and air and things like that. Then it comes into safety, which is having shelter and belonging to a group. And then we really want to have love, and we want to belong to other people and feel the affection of other people. Then comes the need for self-esteem, and right at the top is the need for self-actualization, which is the need to be the very best person that you can be. And to me, that means being a great leader of other people, being a role model, being an example for other people, inspiring other people, motivating other people to be at their best. And it also means being an awakened person, to be the most conscious and wise person that you can possibly be. When you get to be the highest form of an awakened CEO, we trust that you will be alert, aware, sharp, and clear, and be a CEO that optimizes personal performance for themselves and for others. Be a confident yet humble person, respected for who you are, and you acknowledge and respect and encourage and support everyone around you and serve others through your leadership and by example. An awakened CEO sets a clear vision for other people to follow. They have a great team and collaborate well with that team. They run a smart business, make tough choices, plans and focuses the attention of the entire group. They listen, they learn, they adjust over time. They guide, they mentor, they coach the people that work with them. And yes, they care about them. And yes, they even love them. You know, at the highest state of consciousness, we're told that it's about having unconditional love, about loving everybody that you see. That means loving the prospect who turned you down as much as you love the one who accepted your offer to be a customer. It means loving the employee who left your firm with just the same amount of passion that you would love somebody who stayed with you. When you can get to be have that highest level of unconditional and complete love, it's really quite a wonderful, wonderful way to live life. An awakened CEO gets, for becoming an awakened CEO, great teamwork and collaboration, great loyalty, a stronger business, and I know great personal satisfaction. My experience is that awakening and business success come hand in hand, that the lessons of life and the lessons of business happen simultaneously, and we gain business savvy and wisdom in our personal life at the same time. One way of saying that is, as we grow the business grows us, and vice versa. And I'm really happy to report my personal experience is that you can achieve a very high level of consciousness without living in a monastery, without being an ordained preacher or priest, without going to India, by focusing your time and attention on your inner work day after day. You'll find that when you do get out of balance and you see yourself out of sorts for just a little bit, you're stepping into the shadows, maybe having a little bit of fear or anxiety, that you can return very, very quickly to a place of love and a place of grace. My experience is that you, every CEO, every entrepreneur, can have an enormous amount of peace, joy, strength, wisdom, and love in their lives and build a profitable business at the same time, and it feels absolutely great. The way that we do that is by focusing on 3 areas of growth simultaneously, on business growth, professional growth, and personal growth, and spending a little bit of time every day in each one of those categories. I encourage everyone to find their success formula. This is mine. I work 10 to 12 hours a day, but I spend an hour every day on professional development, and I spend at least an hour, sometimes 2, on personal growth and personal development. And then I have my balancing activities, which are exercise and downtime, whether it be playing little games or watching a favorite TV show or something like that. That's my success formula. My encouragement for you is to find your success formula and play along with me the awakening game. To me, the awakening game is finding ways to be at your highest vibration every second of every day through frequent self-assessments and checking in with yourself, and frequent focus on shifting your energy and putting yourself in a better mood and raising and elevating your spirits so that you can raise and elevate the spirits of everyone that you work with. I've been working a lot this past week on a little project that I've been working on for the last 18 months called the Levels of Creation. How I got focused on this project was listening a lot about the law of attraction and about how our mindset, how the pictures that we hold in our mind and that which we envision and focus on with great clarity and great attention can actually become manifest in our lives. That's what the law of attraction is all about, or the law of manifestation is all about. But on the other hand, I'm also a little bit of an engineer, and the engineer in me says, wait a minute, to do things in the physical world, a completely different set of laws applies. So we have, not only do we have the spiritual laws of creation at the spiritual level, but we also have the physical laws of creation at the physical level. And right in the middle, we have a whole bunch of things that we can do in order to shift our vibration and come into a higher consciousness, to come into a more powerful state where we can more easily manifest and attract into our life that which we want. So I found a way to reconcile all of those paradoxes and challenges for me. And my encouragement for each and every one of you listening to the presentation tonight is to go to levelsofcreation.com and just check it out. Check out the way that I have recorded almost all of the wisdom that I've gained in my lifetime and organized it in a way that makes great sense for me in these 3 different levels of creation, and see whether or not some of the things make great sense to you as well. And when you check that out, give me a call or give me an email and let me know what you liked about it, and if there was anything that was still a little confusing to you or ways in which you think that I can improve this in some way. I'm very eager to have your feedback. Organizing, all of the world's wisdom into one place with what turns out to be about 65 different laws of the universe has been an enormous task for me over the last 18 months. And I'm really eager to share that with you and encourage you to let me know what works for you and what it doesn't work for you in my explanation and categorization and organization of the wisdom that it's been my pleasure to gain over the last 50 years or so of working on myself. And with that, I'd like to turn our attention to one of the really nicest people that I've met in the last few years. Raleigh is a senior citizen, as perhaps just a little more senior than I am, but I'm also a senior citizen. But just a really wonderful, wonderful person who I met 18 months ago at a CEO Space conference. And I've really always been impressed with his soft-spoken nature and the calmness and the groundedness with which he presents himself and speaks to other people. And so it is, and I'm going to give a brief introduction on who he is, and then we're going to talk to him for just a minute. Raleigh is an ex-Navy officer who served in the Civil Engineering Corps. In addition to his naval career, he is a published author and a business coach, an internet marketer, and a real estate investor. He has over 50 years of business experience in manufacturing, marketing, and business building. He's been a member of the Rotary Club of Long Beach, and he serves on their Military and Veterans Support Committee. And he calls himself a serial entrepreneur. He's currently the CEO and the chairman of the Veterans Small Business Association Foundation, the owner of R Rallis Enterprises, which is a business advisory company. He's the owner of Ralder Investment Group, and he's on the board of the U.S. Veterans Support Group, which is the parent company of the Armed Forces Radio Network. Raleigh is also an author of a book named The Makings of a Millionaire, which was written to show you and me the many, many ways that people can take to become a millionaire in his life. So I'm very, very excited to introduce Raleigh and let him say hello to you, and we'll get into the questions that we normally ask people. Welcome to the show, Raleigh.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the kind introduction.
You are most welcome. I'm always happy to have the opportunity to talk with people who carry, such a high vibration. And frankly, I'm eager to know the answers to these questions I'm going to ask you as well, because I don't know the answers to them yet. So I'm going to be informed in the same way that our listeners will be. So first of all, tell me a little bit more about your business journey. I know that you went into the Navy, I think, right out of college, and then you've had a series of jobs and positions in which you were a CEO. Take about 5 minutes or so and tell us about your journey of business growth over the last 50 years or so.
Well, I will. I started off after the Navy. I went to work for Vickers Hydraulics as what they call sales coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I was inside sales, and we were basically providing hydraulic equipment to the aerospace industry at the time. About a year after with them, I became an application engineer, which meant I can go call on the aircraft companies and sell our products. And I took over sales responsibility for McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed, which was in Van Nuys at the time, mm-hmm. and North American Aerospace, that was in Downey, and also the North American Rockwell facility at the El Segundo plant. Mm. And after a year of being a sales rep and doing a good job, I was made the West Coast sales manager, marketing manager for Vickers, and I had that job up until, I guess I was with them for a total of 10 years. Mm. And during that time, I was fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of programs, the X-15, the U-2 airplane, the original Saturn, the Apollo program, Hound Dog, to mention a few of them.
Wow.
And it was reached a point where corporate wanted me to move back to Detroit, and that was a catalyst of me deciding that maybe it's time for me to find my own business opportunity so I have more control of where I lived and what my future was. And opportunity came up. A friend of mine was working for a truck parts distribution company in LA, and they were in trouble. So I went there to kind of see if I can help them out, to straighten them out. And in the process, the founders decided, the shareholders decided they want to sell the business. So I decided to buy that business and venture into my first, I guess, self-employment opportunity. And it was a different experience for me, because even though I had the marketing experience, it's the first time that I really had to manage a variety of talents and personnel, from accounting to the mechanics on the line to salespeople. But I took a different tack, which at the time, because of my experience in the Navy, I went out and got contracts to take over the parts depots in San Diego and at Miramar and over at the El Toro and also up in Point Waimea. And we were doing, our business pretty well grew, and then we hit the first real setback, and I guess it was 92. No, it would be, I guess it would have been in the, yeah, I guess it would have been 92, the energy crunch that kind of slowed down all businesses. And it was kind of a draining thing. So I shut that business down before it would take me down. And end up at the same time, I had a small manufacturing company up in the San Jose area that was involved building special stuff for the trucking industry. And so I went there and kind of expanded that business, and we developed a automated carousel for storing the big truck tires. They're so heavy to handle. But I took them off the floor and put them in a carousel so they had more floor space. And then I sold that business off when I was offered a position to come back to Los Angeles to take over a company called Mark Industries, which was a small company with about 40 employees, doing about $2 million a year, building self-propelled lift equipment. Mainly, their main customers were rental yards, construction rental equipment yards. And so I got myself for the first time in a position where both my marketing and my engineering background came into handy. And I was a president for 2 years, took the business from, at that time they were doing $2 million when I joined them. We got it to $6 million and then $14 million, and then I bought the company out and took it private. And in the 12 years, we were doing almost $10 million a month business worldwide.
Wow, that's a big business.
Yeah, the success came from really three things that you've talked about before, and that is identifying the market better and identifying niches that we can do. Because at the time, we were competing. We were a small company when I started with them, and we were competing with companies like JLG, very big public company that made cranes, and also Snorkel, which made both truck-mounted lift equipment as well as some self-propelled. So they were pretty big giants, but we took a different tack. We looked at the market, decided that there's a bigger market for lifts, also for commercial use inside buildings for maintenance and things. And we ended up taking a product line that only had 4 lifts over to 16 lifts and took our product internationally. So we had about 125 dealers worldwide. And it all came about by the principles you talk about, and that is identifying where the market needs are, how we can fill them, how strong that market really is it a lasting market, and applied those things. I think we would have probably done a better job, even though we grew that well and became the largest manufacturer of aerial lift equipment. We would have done better if we had a mentor that was walking around, because obviously as you're growing fast, you make mistakes that you should have avoided by having people with prior experience in certain areas, especially when it comes to staffing. We grew to 600 people, and we had a plant in San Antonio, which we had planned to move our California plant to. And then we also acquired a company in England so that we can manufacture our equipment there, because it was very expensive to ship our equipment overseas.
So Raleigh, did you retire from that business and sell that business?
What happened when the Gulf War hit? Well, I guess I retired. When the Gulf War hit us, our business dropped off to 50% because a lot of business was overseas.
Yeah.
And I was at that point forced to sell the business, because the bank, one experience I had is when you owe money to the bank, that's the first ones who want their money back, even though the company was still okay. And I had an opportunity to sell the company 2 years before, but did not. The owner didn't want it. The English company that wanted to buy us felt that they didn't want to put that much money in our hands and not be around to control it. But anyway, the short of it is that the company was sold, so I was basically forced into retirement, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't really ready to retire totally. So I became kind of an advisor to some other businesses and helped them. I have a friend who's in mergers and acquisitions, and some of their clients just needed help to get their business straightened out, so I was doing that. And then when I realized that we had 1 million unemployed veterans, I turned my focus to trying to help the veterans and started this nonprofit in 03 to help veterans get into business for themselves. And that's a lot of what I'm doing. But it's interesting that in my journeys, both in personal business, but also recognizing the importance of networking with other businesses, I've connected myself with a lot of very talented individuals, both through JT Fox's program and also through CEO Space, where I met you.
Yeah, excellent.
CEO Space is really, I have 2 associates I work with. One is building a online program for financial literacy training, and the other one is doing some international activity relative to structures. And it's kind of led me to working with a New Jersey company that's a manufacturer of steel frame houses that are made on a production line basis, so they're affordable.
Well, you certainly have had an incredible career of working for others, of focusing on sales and marketing, and then coming into being a CEO of several companies. And I know you have several ventures that you're still working on. And by the way, I essentially have the same philosophy as you do, which says that I don't ever intend to really stop working. I may slow down a little bit, but you know, when you're on an inner journey and a journey of professional growth and personal growth, you realize that as every year goes along, you have more to offer other people. You're a little bit wiser, you're a little bit kinder, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more understanding of other people. And it seems like such a waste to go sit on a beach somewhere and not share what you've learned with others. So as you have been on this business journey, you have become this person who I greatly admire and respect. And our next question for you is, talk to us about that inner journey. What have been your practices along the way? Have you been a member of any spiritual organization, churches, or spiritual communities along the way?
I grew up as Greek Orthodox, and I'm second generation Greek. My dad came to the U.S. When he was 12 years old. My mother was born here. Like most Christians, we went to church. We believed in Christ. But it was back in '62, I think it was. I was listening to Billy Graham, and that was the first time I think verbally I accepted Christ. Even though I believed in him all my born life, it was the first time I really wanted him to be a major part of my life. And I thank him every day for the wisdom and skills that the Lord has provided me. And I feel that it was for a purpose to me to help other people. And I think that's probably why the reason I'm so motivated to use my talent to help our veterans as well. I also been married now. Well, we've been together for 45 years. We've been married 35 years to a lovely woman who's a Christian, and she has been probably the most inspiring person to have me understand the Bible better and apply what the Lord wanted us to do. And I find that one of the weaknesses that I have, she brings to me, is I'm a very trusting person.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I find myself being taken advantage of people. Sometimes I've been taken financially advantage of. But it still doesn't stop me from looking at a person on the basis that everybody has one desire, and that's to have a decent life, and the majority of people are honest, and occasionally you have just to learn how to identify those who are not, and sometimes it's a costly lesson. That's all. But that's what life is about. We learn as we go. It's not something. No one's written a book of life that's complete yet.
Amen to that. So what are your personal growth practices now? Do you get up and read the Bible? Do you pray? Do you go to church? What do you do to work on yourself still today?
Well, I do try to read the Bible on a daily. I pray every night. Thank the Lord for all His blessings. I take time. I don't read a book completely, but I'll read books, different chapters, things to continue to expand my knowledge. I welcome the opportunity to learn from other people. That's why 3 years ago I decided to get a mentor, which I wished I had earlier, because it's important for people to. We think we know everything. It's really in the hands of the Lord, our lives, but we need to help ourselves by having people with more experience than we have. Probably the biggest failure most business people do is they do not assess themselves properly initially, and don't find the talent that supplements what they can do well. We all have our strengths, but we sure have a lot of weaknesses, and we need the right people around us. And I'm constantly on the journey to find the right people to partner with.
I love that. One of the laws that's in the levels of creation, I call the law of synergy. And the law of synergy to me means that when you get two people focused on an issue or a problem, you're going to have a lot better answer than if they focused on it, just one of them or the two of them individually. There's magic that happens when you get into a conversation about an opportunity or an issue that just can't happen in any other way. So that's another great reason to have somebody else on your team so that you can take advantage of what I call the law of synergy.
And sometimes a member of your team should not necessarily be in your same business, because if it is, the tendency is you have the same opinions of things. It's better to have experienced people in different industries that are complementary to yours, and that's the important part of how you build a team, I think.
I like to say that God doesn't give all of the great ideas to just one person. That Raleigh has some, and Stephanie, who's on our call with us today, has some, and I have some, and you'll never get those great ideas that other people have unless you ask them, unless you're in a conversation with them. I'm going to take just a short break, and I'm going to come back to you and ask you some of our other questions that we typically ask our guests. But first, I want to let the listeners be aware that we do, in addition to this conversation, which is primarily focused on personal and business growth, every Monday I do an office hours presentation that's almost entirely focused on business growth. And that's Mondays at noon Pacific time. You can watch your emails for sign-up information. You can go to paulhoyt.com and sign up for our system, in which you'll always get the reminder emails for that. So I invite you, as an awakened CEO focused on personal growth and spiritual growth, to also be focused on business growth, and we give back in that way every single week. The Awakened CEO system that I came out with just a few months ago, it really combines personal growth, professional growth, and business growth. We have business growth programs and personal coaching programs and education and training programs. If you want any information on that, you can go to paulhoyt.com. You can send me an email. You can give me a call with the number that's on your screen. And with that brief, intermission and commercial sponsorship, I want to come back to my guest, Raleigh, and ask him a few other questions that I really love to ask my guests on the show. So the next question to me is, Raleigh, who are your favorite spiritual teachers and preachers? You mentioned Billy Graham earlier, who has been a favorite of many.
I listen to different ones. I don't know if I can actually say I have any particular one special. I think it's important for us to recognize that a lot of the preaching that's done is sometimes interpreted by the individual, and so it's important for us to have multiple spiritual leaders. There's no, the Bible is difficult to understand without having someone help interpret it for us. It has several different meanings for people. I think the main thing for me is because my wife spends more time reading it and we spend a lot of time talking about the Bible together, that's what's really helped me more than anything else, because I'm so busy doing things that I sometimes don't put time aside for what's really important, and that's my spiritual growth.
That's extremely well said. I really appreciate that. Go on.
Yeah. But I think it's typical. I don't think when we're young, we don't recognize that the Lord has a plan for us. And we don't listen to His plan. We always think we can do everything ourselves, and that's when we get into trouble. And I think it's important to have a partner, whether it's a spiritual one or your wife or close friend, who is deep involved and takes the time, and that's what they're spending their time, is to understand the Bible so that they can share it with us and bring us along, and think that's their role to help us. That's like having your spiritual mentor, if you want to call it.
I really like that. And one of the things I want to make sure that our listeners hear loud and clear is that there are a lot of different spiritual paths available to us. When you were growing up in the United States in the 1950s and 40s, even in the early 60s, Christianity was the primary religious organization. We had a large Jewish population, but primarily everybody was, some form of Christianity. I think it had like an 80% market share, if you can use that term. So many people grew up with that as the foundation of their religious and spiritual training. Some people switch and look to other people at other stages in their life, and some people get on that path and stay on that path and follow that path to becoming a kind and wise person over time. The keys are, I think, humility. The keys are trust. The keys are being compassionate and listening to other people, and and loving other people, and keeping a humble heart and an open heart, whatever path that you might have. So Raleigh, in your conversations, you talk about the Lord a tremendous amount, and you talk about your particular path. But I just want to make sure that those listeners out there understand that I have the deepest respect for the Christian path, the Jewish path, the Muslim path, the Hindu path, the Native American path, and for those people who are finding their own way out there too. I think as long as you focus on becoming the best person that you can be, becoming an honest, wise, kind, loving, joyful person, that you will find that way for yourself. And who knows what that path will be for you. So thank you. I really appreciate your sharing with us what your personal path has been, Raleigh, and who your favorite spiritual teachers are. Oh, one other thing I do want to make a point to. Raleigh, I couldn't agree with you more when you say listen to the truth from a variety of spiritual teachers and a variety of different leaders out there. We all gain wisdom from whatever source that we can, and then we filter that through our culture and through our experience and share it with others as truthfully as we possibly can. And that's why it's most important to listen to that truth, to seek that truth, to seek that wisdom from a variety of different sources, so that we can, I think, distill it down in our own minds and learn it for ourselves, and then have the opportunity to share it with others.
I think the key is there is listening. Learn to listen.
Excellent. Raleigh, you've already shared a couple of lessons with us for our listeners. You've said along the way, make sure that you spend time focusing on doing that inner work. You also talked about the value of having mentors in your life. What other important lessons, as you look back, sitting in your golden years here, still quite active in business, but having a tremendous amount of experience. When you look back, Are there other really important lessons that you've learned along the way that you can share with us?
Yes, I think in my first business I got into, I don't think I really had a passion for the parts business.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just became a vehicle for me to get started. I always tell people that if you find out what their passion is, and then find out if they can monetize their passion, because it's the only thing that gets you through the rough times.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took over Mark, I really was passionate about that business, that product. And because of that, I was able to, didn't mind spending a lot of time coming up with new product designs and stuff, and traveling overseas to talk to dealers and get things going,
Mm-hmm.
because it was really a deep passion to see that business expand.
Excellent. I like that. That's really good advice. So get a mentor, find something that you can be very, very passionate about, are two extremely good lessons. So are you still working on anything in your life right now? Are you doing your work every day?
Yes, I am. From the standpoint, both my personal knowledge and expansion, I'm doing that, and I'm also right now heavily involved in raising money to put a factory here in California that'll make steel frame homes that'll employ 200 veterans
Mm-hmm.
building their own home, and then working with the cities to have 60 acres allocated for a veteran community like we did after World War II.
Yeah.
So the veterans have a job, they qualify for 100% financing, and they live in the house that they built.
That's excellent. That sounds like a wonderful project. And I encourage those of you who want to learn more about that project to contact Raleigh or to contact me, and I'll pass your information along to him, because you may want to serve that project and help out on that project too. Well, thank you very much for answering the questions that I had for you, Raleigh. I really do appreciate that. I think we're going to open it up for questions now. If you're listening live on the call, you're welcome to raise your hand and we'll take you off mute, and you can ask your question live if you like, or you can type it into the chat log, and we'll do the best we can to serve you by answering your questions and continuing this discussion here for a while. So Stephanie, with that, do we have anybody who would like to come off of mute, or a particular question that you might have for us?
Yeah, I have a question here from John. Actually, this question is for both of you.
Okay.
What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Raleigh, I'll let you answer that one first.
I think it wasn't by initial design. I grew up in my uncle's dad's grocery store, so the family were entrepreneurs from the beginning. My great-grandfather opened a coffee shop downtown LA when he first came here from Greece. So I think it was probably in my DNA, but didn't know it until I decided to leave corporate world and get on my own.
Oh, that's excellent. I know you also said that you had the opportunity when your company wanted to move you back to Detroit, and you looked around and said, "Nah, I think I want to do something different."
And that was the real motivation.
Yeah, that's good. Sometimes there is that opportunities that happen in our life, and we just see the open window and decide to jump through it. In my particular case, I was started out as a computer programmer, and a long time ago, in the heyday of the computer industry, when it was a tremendous amount of rapid expansion in the early 1970s, before the days of Apple, not quite before Hewlett Packard, but before Hewlett Packard got into computers for sure. And I saw an opportunity to, I wanted to make fame and fortune. I knew some friends that had a computer business back in a small town in Oklahoma, and we talked about the opportunity of me moving to Springfield, Missouri, and starting a branch office, or getting them to kind of fund that initial expansion. So I moved my family to Springfield, Missouri, and we decided to open up our own business. And at the time that I had done that, I actually had a 6-month contract. So I had my first 6 months of cash flow, ready to go whenever I started out that first business. And that was my motivation, was really to make a tremendous amount of money. I was 30 years old at the time when we moved to Springfield, Missouri, to open up my first business there. And I had that business for 5 years, then went back into corporate America for 18 years, to learn the things that I needed to learn that I realized I didn't know when I started my first business, with the intention of having another business later on in life. And then I got that opportunity 14 years ago and became an entrepreneur for the second time with my consulting business. So sometimes it's, you know, a matter of opportunity that comes our way to make us take the jump into being a CEO. In my particular case, I thought about it for many months. I worked on it for 4 to 6 months to line up the relationships and line up the projects so that when I jumped out into business, I had already had contracts lined up, and I was really excited about that. So that's how we both got jumped out there, each one of us with our own little reason, our own little path, but started the journey a long, long time ago. Stephanie, do we have anybody else with their hands up or another question for Raleigh or I?
We do. Marcel has her hand up. You want to unmute her and get her question for Raleigh?
I don't see oh, there she is. There she is. Marcel, you are unmuted. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Paul?
I can. Thank you.
Great. Well, my question's for Raleigh. And Raleigh, I'm curious, with your company now, are you open to collaborating with other veteran companies?
Yes.
And how did you...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I got a yes, which is awesome. I've got a project I'm thinking about specifically, but I would love to learn more about, you know, I heard 200 homes and 60 acres for vets. I would love for you just to elaborate on that and where that, you know, that passion came from, and what, you know, how can the Paul Hoyt community support you in that from a social perspective?
Well, the situation came about, you know, it's like everything else in business. When people hear about you, they'll come. The company, it's called Homerica, is in New Jersey. Been in business for several years. They were working out of a shipyard, and about a year and a half ago, and then it's a long story, but they're in a shipyard. Right now, they're not building any houses. And someone had referred them to me to see what I can do to help them or get involved. And in a conversation, I said to them, I will work with them on the basis that whatever factory we put up, that they employ only veterans as a majority of the workforce. And so what involved basically is a plan right now. We're in the process of raising $5 million to put the first plant up here in Southern California, where we have a big need for home housing, both housing and for jobs for veterans. And it will be the first of 20 plants throughout the U.S. that's going to be duplicating this situation. So that's how I got into it, and that's what's going on. And as far as collaboration with other veteran groups, I work with the Veterans Support Group, which it provides veterans at dealers for greeters. And I work with, right now I'm on the committee for Fisher House, which is going to be at the Long Beach Veterans, and we're raising money to build a Fisher House. I don't know if you've ever heard, is much like McDonald House, but it's for veteran families to stay free while their veteran is recovering. And the plan is that these are any major veteran hospital. We completed one at Pendleton rather this year, and we're breaking ground next month here in Long Beach. So in answer to the question, I work with any veteran group that I can either help or they can help us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that answer, Raleigh. I appreciate that. And I have, by the way, a special place in my heart for veterans too. I don't really have, you know, a reason to do that other than nearly every veteran I've ever met, it really has become, you know, a kinder and wiser person as a result of their experience over there. And I know some people come back and they're troubled for a while because it is quite a challenge, you know, to be in especially combat situations and then come back and, you know, find your way here. And I feel like the people that help us stay safe and who have volunteered, you know, to defend the country and to carry out the missions that we have really deserve every kind of break that they can possibly get. So I'm very passionate about helping them as much as I possibly can too. Stephanie or Marcel, any follow-up questions, or Stephanie, any other questions?
That was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marcel. Stephanie, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I was trying to get this question here. One of the things, I've got this question here. We're wondering, with your work with the veterans, what are you finding is the number one issue that they're struggling with when the veterans come home?
I think the biggest struggle they have is the transition out of the service is not handled very well. I mean, they don't get a good indoctrination, especially if they went in the service when they were really young. Coming out on from an environment that tells them every day what to do to an environment that now they have to decide what to do is a big adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases, most of the veterans just need a job, because when they get discharged, their pay stops, even though it's not a big pay. And what we're finding, but at least what I'm finding, is that a lot of colleges and universities have hired recruiters to go recruit the veterans to come there, use their GI Bill. And a lot of veterans that are getting a GI Bill to take courses, though, that there's no jobs for after they get out. And so the biggest concern that most veterans have is how they're going to make a living going forward, and even get back into life where they can even have a home and a family.
Yeah, I've heard that several times as well, that there really is not much of a good exit strategy or transition plan, that we do a little bit, but we don't do a lot, and in most cases we don't do enough.
Yeah, I've teamed up with Getty, G-E-T-I, who is now they've had some relationship with the Defense Department, and they are going ahead and working with the transitional officers at the bases. They're working with San Diego and with Camp Pendleton right now, that they supplement the transition out of the service to help them get at least prepared for a job.
Excellent. Excellent. Stephanie?
Well, that's well, I'm just curious, as an entrepreneur and as somebody who really cares, what can we do as an entrepreneur or a business owner? What can we do to help these veterans? Is there anything that we can do? Do you have any recommendations for us?
Well, I think two things I want to caution anybody who wants to hire veterans. A lot of the big corporations were hiring veterans because the government was giving them subsidy to go back. The problem they're running into is that they don't do a good job screening in some cases, so the attrition is very high. So a lot of companies have kind of gone away from hiring veterans because of their poor experience, but it was not the veterans' fault. It was just the way the system was set up. Yeah. For those who want to hire veterans, there's a website called Hire Patriots, where you can post job opportunities, whether it's full-time or part-time, for a veteran. And they'll help you screen the veteran.
I like that. Yeah,
but there's also some things you need to do. A lot of veterans come back with stress from services that don't get treated well by the VA. They put them on medication. That's not the solution. There's a company called Grace Healing Centers here in California. They're actually based in Irvine, I think is where their office is. I've kind of helped them kind of expand, get some more money in, because they can treat both alcoholic and brain injury addictions issues, non-pharmaceutical way, and they have a high success rate. In fact, we just helped them put a proposal together that would show the government that they can save 480,000 lives and the government over $80 billion from the way they're doing it now.
Wow.
And it's just hard to get the government to do anything. Yeah? So it's going to take private interest to do it.
That's awesome. And I encourage any of you listeners out there that if you want more information on Raleigh's own Veterans Small Business Administration Foundation, and or any of the the projects that he's talking about, to reach out to us. You can look him up online, I'm sure, or you can reach out to us and we'll make sure to put you in contact with him. And Stephanie, I think we've got time for one more question before we conclude for today. What do you have for us?
Somebody wants to know if Raleigh is an engineer.
Yes, I am. I'm a mechanical and aeronautical engineer.
Excellent. That may be the reason why we get along so well. It's because I have this engineering mentality. In my case, I'm a software engineer, but but you know, the principles are a lot the same about, you know, running projects and designing things and making sure they work. And I've often been told that I have a very analytical and organized and categorizing kind of a mind like that. I like to think things through and plan things out as well. So, and with that, I think we're kind of running short on time here. I want to thank everybody who attended the conversation today live, and those of you who are listening to the recording, for joining us in today's Awakened CEO conversation with my special guest, Rallie Rallis. We invite you to tune in for our office hours presentations on every Monday at noon Pacific time to learn a little bit more on business, where the focus will be, you know, 90% on business and 10% on personal growth instead of the other way around. And I really love having Rallie as our guest today and learning how he became a very kind and wise person while he was on this journey of business growth and being a serial entrepreneur too. You can do the same thing. Work on yourself every day, work on your business every day, and you can achieve prosperity and wisdom at the same time. Until we meet each other again, this is Paul Hoyt saying goodbye and wishing everyone out there a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.